Hola and welcome to the video. And the fact that you clicked on this video or thumbnail or link is you're most probably having problems with your fan curve monitoring table shaking, with your fan curves monitoring or configuration software. In my case, I have a Gigabyte motherboard, and the software I used to use was the Easytune from Gigabyte. Well, the thing with Easytune is it keeps conflicting with most of my devices. To be fair with Gigabyte, if you just install your stuff and leave it alone, most probably it'll work fine. But in my case, well, that's not my case. It keeps conflicting with it. So, a good replacement for the fan curve, take note, only the fan curve, not those RGB stuff, alright? A good replacement I found for a good fan curve monitoring software is Argus Monitor. And to be blunt, the major downside with Argus Monitor is its subscription fee. It's not that much, not that expensive, but it does have a subscription fee, one-time payment only, and it'll last for a lifetime, I think. Anyway, perpetual subscription fee, and it's good for two computers. So downside for some, but it really helps. I find it really helpful and very good. So again, I won't really bother with those stuff. I won't even try to influence you into buying this if you don't need it. Point of it is, the main reason that you clicked on this video is you're looking for a good replacement for your fan curve monitoring, right? And I'm not sure if this will fit you, but it fit me just right. And yeah, let me walk you through it and show you how it works. I just want to say I'm starting to get the hang of this OBS Studio with this overlay recording stuff. Anyway, here's the Argus Monitor software, but before this one, I want to show you guys where I downloaded it. So first, go to argusmonitor.com, and here you'd find the software, how to pay for your subscription, stuff like that. So just download it, install it, basic stuff. You most probably know this already, the fact that you're in this video. And here's Argus Monitor. And let's start with overview. Overview, you'd have your cores for your CPU, GPU, and hard drives or storage devices. And CPU temperature. Here, it'll just monitor it. Nothing really into this one. GPU. Now, here's a good one. It displays your temperature, yeah, but on the right side of it, you see here, bias control. You could actually control your GPU fan or graphics card fan with this software. You could choose it here, but do take note, like bias controlled, software controlled. If you choose software controlled, it's referring to the Argus Monitor, right? So software controlled curve, you could control it or set your curves here, or manual if you want to just set a fixed fan speed for your graphics card fans. But thing to note with this one, it doesn't work, or I was only able to try it with Gigabyte's 2060 gaming graphics card, and for that card, it doesn't work properly. It's ramping up to the curve I set it to, but after a second, it'll go back to BIOS setting with it, which is 0 RPM, and it keeps on playing like that. And no, it's not because of the temperature rising and falling. It's just for some reason, I don't know, it's not properly working with Gigabyte's 2060 graphics card. And right now, I just I don't really use it, or it's not really helping me at all because I'm in custom water loop. So that's that. HD temperature, yeah, that's that if you need it. Smart, you know what smart is for your SSDs. It's there if you need it. Performance, CPU speed, yeah, it's just again, like what I said, it's a good monitoring software. You could, um, top of my head, it may be useful for those people who are monitoring their power usages and constant power delivery for, when you're overclocking, stuff like that. You have monitoring for CPU and yeah, main board. So this is actually the reason why I bought this thing. And before we dive into this, let's jump to system first. What's in here? We have CPU usage, memory, network speed, stuff like that. If you need it, it's there. Disks, input output, and settings. We'll go into settings later on. Now let's go back to main board. Temperature, it lists there what it's currently monitoring, and here for the fan speed, you know how it is. It's just showing you the current fan speed you're having or producing. Now, again, this fan control here, this page here, and this next one here. This is the main reason why I decided to purchase this Argus monitor. It's really nice. Now, for context, what I have here is my computer is in a two-loop design. First loop is for my GPU and the second loop's for my CPU. And the CPU's is using an AIO from Gigabyte. So again, I'm not really fond of the Gigabyte software because it keeps interfering or conflicting with my other devices, right? Especially if you have like some memory modules from like I believe there's quite a lot of bad reviews with Corsair and Gigabyte software conflicting with each other. So if you're one of those groups, this software will help you out. So yeah, so I have a Gigabyte AIO and it's conflicting with my softwares. So what I decided to do was I removed the fan header, the fans of my AIO. I removed that from the Gigabyte, headers, and I installed it directly into my motherboard. As for the pump for the AIO, I really don't have much choice in that matter. So I let it alone. I just plug it into the Gigabyte AIO header, and for some reason it's working properly. I just set a manual curve for the AIO pump, and I closed I disabled the Gigabyte liquid cooler start. You know how it is, right? When you open Windows, it'll open the application right up because it's in the startup options enabled. So I disabled that. With that disabled, my pump's still running fine. So that's that. My Gigabyte software is completely shut down. The fan for my AIO's directly connected into my motherboard, and I'm letting Argus monitor handle it. And yeah, going back, CPU fan here. We have two fans for my AIO, CPU fan and CPU optional header. And I only have two fans. My Gigabyte version is the liquid cooler 240. Anyway, so that's that. I have CPU fan 1 and CPU fan 2 for my AIO. And as for my custom loop, because of this software, I'm able to use just one header from my motherboard, and I have a fan controller that's capable of connecting up to, I think, 11 or 14 fans in total. Anyway, so that's that. So I only have one header used in my motherboard, and that's connected to system fan 1. So my fan controller's connected to system fan 1 header, and 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 7 fans are connected to the controller. And this software here is controlling system fan 1. Now, if you have like one of those Lian Li fans. You know, the modular type fans. So you may probably use 2 or 3 headers from your motherboard. Won't be a problem with this one. Okay, so going back. So I only have one controller that's controlling 7 fans connected to one header in my motherboard. And that header is system fan 1 and it's here. And yeah. So the rest of it is kind of meh. I'm not really using it except for system fan 6. System fan 6 is where my water pump is connected to. So it's currently just set manually 30% fixed value. Going back here, now let's say, no, let's not say it. In my system fan 1, I had the curve set to detect the temperature from my HTO temp. Here's a good tip for you guys who are in custom loops, water custom loops, liquid custom loops. It's really a good idea to have a monitoring, device, sensor, water temperature sensor installed into your loop, because finding out what your water temperature is actually quite helpful, especially if you have more than one component in that loop, because as we may know, what your water temperature is will actually most probably dictate what your component temperature will be, right? So for example, right now I have nice hash running, and if you could see here, with nice hash running, as you may know, miners or mining softwares particular use the memory side of your graphics card, right? So your memory temperature may be a bit higher than your GPU temperature, right? So looking into this one here, memory junction temperature, we have, it's quite low. Is it not running? Oh, let me start it real quick. Where are ya? Okay, let's give it time to heat up, because I opened it earlier hoping that it's already it'll warm the system up, but apparently I wasn't able to start it. So okay, my GPU temperature here is at 56, 58, but as it starts to warm up, with a water temperature of 37 degrees Celsius. So, with a 37 degrees Celsius in my water temperature, this one here, in my H2O in loop, with a 37 degrees Celsius water temperature, I'm able to get 57 to 60 degrees Celsius, or no, 57 to 58 degrees Celsius VRAM temperature. But as soon as it hits 38 degrees Celsius, it jumps to 60. Now, it'll stabilize here, 68 degrees Celsius if my water temperature is at 46. So that's that. I'm trying to point out that if you have a water temperature sensor installed, you'd be able to tell what your water temperature is with a corresponding component temperature. You know what I mean? So right now I have a 62 degrees Celsius memory temperature. It's giving me 39. It'll last until 41 degrees Celsius. So 39 to 41 degrees Celsius water temperature, it'll give me about 62 degrees Celsius for the memory temperature. So again, the point of this is I'm just trying to show you guys how important monitoring your water temperature is. All right. So yeah, so that's that. Going back to Argus monitor. Yeah, so that's the reason why I chose HTO temperature in loop as my sensor. So going back here, what I currently have configured here is I have my trigger set to HTO temp in loop because I have that water temperature sensor installed into my system, right? Now, before, when I didn't have that, what I find really helpful for what Argus monitor have is this one here, multiple controllers. Now, cut right there. It pretty much works with the current software that you have right now, but good thing with this one here, it has this option for multiple controllers. Thing with this one here is once you configure it, you could set it to multiple triggers. Like for example, you have your CPU installed into that loop, so you could assign controller 1 for your GPU temperature. You could assign controller 2 for your memory, for your VRAM, controller 3 for your CPU, and assign each curve for those components. Now, first one to hit it is the first temperature it triggers. Like for example, I have here at 30 degrees GPU temperature, or rather at 60 degrees GPU temperature, fan should be 70%. Or for the CPU, if it's like this, so basically it'll set the fan to the first trigger it encounters, and you could set 3 triggers for that one controller. So this is really helpful for you guys who are using fan controller for your fans installed into your motherboard fan header. Too many errors there. Anyway, if you guys are still watching this video, you probably know what I'm talking about. So that's a really nice feature Argus monitor has. And yeah, going back, multiple controllers. Before I didn't have my water temperature sensor installed. In that case, this one was really handy, these multiple controllers. Yeah, and aside from this option here, it pretty much works the same as the current software you're having right now. So that's about it. And now for settings, you could. Oh, I'm sorry. Going back, main board, fan controller. This one here. Here in the option here. Sorry, if you click this button here, advanced options or advanced configuration, you could rename. You could rename the header your controller's installed into, and continuous mode, 40%. So basically, this one here is the minimum value you could set your fan to. Going back here. Here, curve. If you guys could notice here, 40%. So I could set that. I could set this value here. So that's that. But I could still set it to 0. I could set it to 0. Like for example, if your fan supports 0 RPM, you could set it to 0 up until maybe 25 degrees Celsius ambient. Once it or rather 30 degrees Celsius, let's say you have a 25 degrees Celsius ambient, you'd wanna keep your fans not running up until 30 degrees Celsius, but once it reaches that, it'll jump to 40%. Stuff like that. So you could set the setting. You could set the setting here. Startup mode, you know how it is. Once the computer starts up, or in this case, Windows. All right. it cannot control your fan curve beyond or prior to Windows launching. All right. So upon Windows launching, that'll be your RPM and advanced. Yeah. So that's there if you need it. And what else here I may have? Yeah, so again, the sensor or the trigger I had it set to is my water temperature sensor. I set it to couple of degrees, every couple of degrees there. As you may know, if you're basing your triggers onto your water temperature, every degree counts. And the bottom side here, this hysteresis, this one here, basically, you don't want your fans to keep ramping up and down, right? It doesn't sound nice, and it's not nice for your fans as well. So basically here, like for example, I have my fans set to 80% once it reaches 46 degrees Celsius, right? So the idea there is once my water temperature hits 46 degrees Celsius, my fan will ramp up to 80% RPM. The bad thing there is once it hits or once it runs 80% right away, the temperature will kind of lower right away, right? And we don't want that sound. It's not nice to hear. So to mitigate that, you set this one, well, I set it to 1 degree Celsius. So basically, once my fan hits 80%, it'll wait for 46, 44 degrees Celsius. Now, if my water is back to 44 degrees Celsius, once my fan or once my temperature goes back to 44 degrees Celsius, it'll go back to 70% RPM. Something like that. Again, if you're watching this video still, most probably you guys know what I'm talking about. And skipping to this one here, general, you could just play around with the settings here, but what I do want to point out is this one here, stability. If you have like an Asus, Corsair, and NZXT controller in your system, you could check that or place a tick in that, and basically what you're telling the software to do is you're letting Argus Monitor control that controller, something like that. Again, I'm using a Gigabyte AIO and it's not listed here, so I'm forced to manually do it. Like I had to manually install my fans into my motherboard headers, stuff like that. And another thing here that's worth mentioning is email setup. Email setup, configure that. Once that's configured, you could set warnings to be sent to your email. Like for example here, I've set my CPU threshold to 85 degrees. So once it reaches that, it'll send an email to me saying that I'm having a temperature that I don't want to have. So there you go. So yeah. So there you have it, Argus Monitor. And hope you guys find this video helpful. And hope you like this video as well. And as always, see you in the next one.